Welcome to Shinhua Live. We are reporting from Summer Davos 2019, which this year is being hosted in the coastal city of Dalian in northeastern China. Now, the theme for this year's forum is leadership in the era of globalization 4.0, which the World Economic Forum says represents fundamental changes in the global economy that are reshaping companies, communities, and countries at an unprecedented speed and scale. And one of those countries, of course, is China, which last year marked 40 years of economic reform and still has huge potential for growth and wants to continue opening its doors wide into the world. So what better person to sit down with and talk about these concepts than a partner and leader from one of the world's biggest consultancy companies? So joining me now is Henrik Naujoks, a director and partner with Bain&Company. And Mr. Naujoks, my first question for you today is, what has been Bain&Company's latest move in the Chinese market?
So Bain&Company is since for 28 years now in the China markets and delivering breakthrough results for their customers, as well as creating great people outcomes, because we're a people business. Now, in the last years, we have doubled down especially on innovations in the operational improvement area and on digital and analytics. These are core areas where we have accelerated our growth because they are so important for our clients.
Great. And what could you say about the role of the Chinese market in your company's global business operations?
Yes, I think Bain China has three roles basically. The one is to support our multinational clients. A lot of multinational clients are interested in China for different reasons, customer reasons, for supply chain, and we are a partner for them to work in China. I think the second is to work for what we call scale insertions. You know, now 167 unicorns are coming from China. These are fast-growing, very innovative companies, and these are very interesting clients for us where we can add value with our approach. And the third is basically to provide access to the digital ecosystem.
Great. And so just moving on from that, what would you say are the biggest opportunities and challenges that that Bain is facing in China?
Talent. I have to tell you, the biggest opportunity but also challenge is to have the right workforce. I said we are a people business. We need the best talent, the best people to fulfill the needs of our customers. And it's tough, it's a tough market, so we are very much focused on recruiting the right people, but then making them work in this environment, retaining them to serve our clients best. And it's a supply-driven business. We have so much demand, we need good people.
Great, and I guess China's the place to be.
China is the place to be, and quite honestly, personally, I moved to Hong Kong and to the Greater China office system because I'm convinced that we can make a big difference here, and this is my personal commitment. My family is coming over, so this is really to support the growth in this region.
Great, it's a great place to be. So for those viewers just tuning in, we are sat down with Henrik Naujoks from Bain&Company at Summer Davos 2019 in Dalian to discuss all things related to globalization and business in China. Now, my next question for you is, in March this year, China's top legislator passed the foreign investment law. So how much do you think of an influence has this law had on your company so far?
Actually, not a lot of impact. We are growing with foreign as well as with domestic companies. Obviously, we had some requests because of this opening, because companies want to increase their shareholding or want to enter the market. But in the grander scheme of things, this has no material impact. We are growing aggressively.
Do you see it impacting maybe your company in the next few years?
It will be one of several drivers of growth.
Yes.
But it will not be the decisive factor.
Right, I see, yeah. And President Xi has stressed many times that China will never close its doors to the outside world. How do you view China's determination to continue opening up to the world? And how do you see the direction of China's future economic development?
I totally agree. I think we can only resolve the issues that are at hand, whether on the environmental side, whether on technologies, etc., if we collaborate as nations, as businesses. And I think it's very, very important that we don't get into an isolistic way of acting. And also, we need multilateralism, not bilateralism. This is the only way we can address some of these pressing topics for society as well as for individual businesses as well as for industries. And therefore my personal wish would be that this is a continuous trend, opening up, collaboration instead of confrontation.
Yeah, absolutely. I also noticed just from living in China over the last 3 years that I've met people from absolutely all over the world. So it shows that, people are really coming to China after it's sending this message of being so open to the world. I've never met such diverse people before. So
yes, and I think what's also important is that we have some joint rules that all parties are complying to make a change happen.
Absolutely, yeah. Now, from your point of view, how do you view, I guess this follows on from what we're just talking about now about multilateralism, how do you view the rise of protectionism in the United States and the world at large?
I think this is not the solution to the problems. We are not in a zero-sum game, and I think on the long run, if all countries and nations would pursue protectionist tendencies, this will be especially at the cost for the consumer. And therefore, I think we have to have fair rules across the board. But I hope that all the policymakers are coming to this conclusion, because otherwise the end consumer will pay the bill.
Absolutely. And do you think the trade frictions between the US and China has had any influence on your company's business?
No, we actually see no impact so far. It's quite interesting. We did a study with the American Chamber of Commerce. We interviewed 144 companies. And while 80% of these companies were concerned about the trade war, there were 75% of these companies who basically said, we are optimistic or neutral in our business outlook.
Yeah.
So it hasn't really created a lot of distraction, and hopefully yet.
Great, so just one last question for you on the theme of this year's Summer Davos, which is globalization 4.0. What do you have to say about that? Do you have any opinions about the theme?
Yes, I think it's a very important theme, and it has a lot of connotations. Only to give you a few, I think globalization 4.0 is already a pledge for sticking to globalization also in a digitized world. And I would even say in a digitized world, it's even more important to have common standards, for example, when we talk about data, when we talk about platforms. The second is, it's also a call for new ways of governance. And this is a tricky issue, but my sense is we have to come to a much more agile governance. We have to come to a kind of network. I talked about multilateralism, about a kind of network governance to address the complexity this is creating if everything is connected with everything.
Yeah, so the idea is everyone needs to work together.
But we have to find, quite honestly, also some of the international institutions have been created this way 30, 50 years ago or longer ago. And we have to admit that also the ways they are acting, they are reacting, might have to be overworked.
Yeah, so it's like coming up with new ways of going forward and what works for the future as technology develops.
There is a fundamental problem that the pace and the magnitude of technology innovation is becoming faster than the ability of humans to adapt. And this is mid to long term, this is a big risk. And I think especially for regulators and policymakers, the question is, how can they adapt so fast to some of the technological developments we will see?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely right. So I think that we have come to the end of our very fascinating interview about the world coming together to work to sort of implement technology in a way that works for everybody. So thank you very much for joining us today for Xinhua Live about topics related to globalization and China's economy. And to our viewers who joined us today, please drop your comments below and express your opinions about the topics we discussed. And stay tuned for more Xinhua coverage over the next few days for Summer Davos. So see you next time.